Few episodes in the history of the Crusades are so tragic as William of Tyre's discovery that his pupil, Prince Baldwin, the future King of Jerusalem, was suffering from leprosy.
During the Crusades, a young boy named Baldwin IV became King of Jerusalem, but he was unable to feel pain due to an illness. This illness was seen as a sign from God, and his condition became part of a legend. For many years, people told stories about him, treating them like myths. However, over time, researchers uncovered the truth about his mysterious illness, surprising everyone. This is the story of a boy who beat his disease and lived longer than expected. This is the story of a king who led armies while on a stretcher, hiding secrets about his condition deep within. Finally, after 8 centuries, the world learned the truth about the boy who couldn't feel pain. Jerusalem, in 1161, a city of prophecy and anxiety. Jerusalem in 1161 was a city filled with talk of prophecy. Every stone seemed to carry the marks of past wars, and each sunrise brought heavy worries. The effects of old battles remained, and people hoped for signs and miracles. In this tense environment was Baldwin, the son of King Amalric I and Agnes of Courtenay. As a prince, he was expected to be both a symbol and a warrior, heir to lands and a divine purpose. From his earliest days, he was shaped by duty, praying before he could read, riding and leading servants before his voice changed. He was prepared for a world that allowed no weakness, training in tradition and strength. But he had something unique about him. One day, while playing with other boys, a friend scratched Baldwin's arm. Blood appeared on his pale skin, but he did not react. No cry or flinch. The others stopped, unsettled by his calmness. His tutor, William of Tyre, noticed everything and grew increasingly worried. Later, he wrote in his chronicle that the boy felt nothing when hit or pinched. Soon, word spread through the palace, turning Baldwin's condition into a troubling sign. In the world of saints and omens, his numbness was not just unusual, it was feared. Rumors of leprosy began, an illness that brought dread and isolation. The court reacted as they realized the truth. The future of the dynasty seemed to change quietly. Outside the city, Jerusalem waited for miracles. Inside, a boy's fate began to turn into legend. When King Amalric I died suddenly in 1174, the crown went to his 13-year-old son, a boy not ready for such a heavy burden. In the grand church of the Holy Sepulchre, surrounded by incense and prayers, Baldwin was anointed as Baldwin IV, King of Jerusalem. Each day, the throne felt heavier. Jerusalem was at a crossroads of faith and ambition, with enemies closing in. To the south, Saladin gathered his forces from Egypt and Syria to reclaim the holy city. Inside the walls, noble families plotted, suspicious of a child king with health issues. Baldwin's pale face became a symbol and a warning. He wore robes to cover his weakening body. Only his closest aides saw the actual toll his condition took. He worked harder than his peers, practicing sword fighting with knights, wrapping his sore hands in linen and riding in tournaments with a brave smile, determined not to let leprosy take away his dignity. But gossip spread quickly in Jerusalem. People whispered through the streets, "The king is cursed. The king is unclean." In the superstitious Middle Ages, leprosy was not simply an illness. It was seen as a divine punishment. Baldwin's numbness, no oddity. It was seen as judgment, fueling rumors that haunted his reign and the legacy he would leave. A quiet struggle against time itself. A war against time. Disease advances. Saladin looms. As Baldwin IV grew into adulthood, his condition worsened. His fingers curled, his feet dragged, and his once bright eyes became dull and sunken. What began as numbness progressed to paralysis, turning a hidden struggle into a situation that no cloth could conceal. Despite his illness, Baldwin's determination grew stronger. Saladin's army was advancing from Egypt, and Jerusalem was in danger. Inside the city, nobles plotted while enemies gathered outside. Advisors urged Baldwin to let others lead, but he refused. He trained with knights until he could hardly stand, cloaked in robes that hid his failing body, forcing a smile through the pain that only his close friends could see. In 1177, war exploded. Saladin's large army, numbering tens of thousands, marched north against Baldwin's small force of a few hundred knights and about 1,000 foot soldiers. His men urged him to stay behind the walls and let stronger soldiers fight, but Baldwin would not retreat. The Battle of Montgizard began. Helpers lifted him onto his horse, securing his legs to the saddle so he could stay mounted. Against all odds, the Crusaders routed Saladin's forces. The young king, who many thought should sit on the sidelines, became a legend. News of the leper who beat the odds spread throughout Christendom. However, the victory was brief. Baldwin's health continued to decline quickly. His fingers turned black, sores appeared on his limbs, and his voice became a whisper. Doctors were confused by the rapid changes. His illness did not follow a typical pattern. Some areas worsened quickly, while others improved unexpectedly. In the medieval period, people blamed divine punishment, while today, historians continue to seek answers about Baldwin's mysterious illness. The Holy Disease: blindness, paralysis, and miraculous leadership. By 1183, Baldwin IV was a young king who faced a tragic contradiction. Although he was in his prime, he was blind and nearly unable to move. His body was a battleground against illness. He could not stand without help. During council meetings, he was carried on a litter to his throne, supported by pillows and covered with flowing silks to hide the tremors in his limbs. When he went to battle, he was also carried, hidden behind crusade banners and flanked by armored knights, a ghostly figure leading from the edge of death. Both friends and enemies perceived him as otherworldly, a living corpse driven by strong will, a saintly figure commanding armies from death's doorstep. French chroniclers who traveled with the Crusaders wrote about him with mixed admiration and fear, capturing the haunting image of the Leper King. The siege of Kerak marked a crucial moment in that time. Saladin, sensing weakness, surrounded the fortress with an army much larger than Baldwin's small forces. Advisors urged him to stay safe in Jerusalem and let others lead, but Baldwin refused. He insisted on leading the relief force, lifted onto a horse like a sacred relic, his pale face set and wrapped in linen to conceal his frailty, carried by generals who mourned for him. The soldiers felt inspired and anxious, following him as if they were trailing a martyr. In this intense conflict, the irony was striking. A king of unwavering faith, devoted to public and private prayer, was struck down by an illness deemed a divine curse. Doctors struggled to understand his condition. His decay did not fit the usual patterns. Although his skin was rotting and scarred, he unexpectedly outlived expectations, his nerves flickering to life at times. He felt no pain, but his body was still wasting away. When Baldwin returned home from his last battle, half blind and weak, Jerusalem cheered briefly. The city clung to a sense of miracles, but inside the palace, reality pressed heavily. Scribes began writing his epitaph, and each day was uncertain. At just 22, his survival was a bold act of defiance. Years later, Baldwin's illness puzzled many. His symptoms did not follow known medical beliefs, and his bones became a part of legend, waiting for science to reveal the truth. In early 1185, as winter gripped Jerusalem, the bells tolled sadly. Baldwin IV, the Leper King and protector of the Holy City, had passed away after 11 years on the throne. Each year was a fierce battle against external enemies and the relentless decline of his own body. In his final moments, unable to speak, he used gestures and whispers to communicate with his closest aides. The air in the room was thick with the smell of infection, slightly masked by incense and crushed herbs. Death was an ever-present visitor. His final gift was a clear vision. Aware of his family's fragile future, he gathered his court and named his successor, his young nephew, Baldwin V. The records show Baldwin, blind and laid up in bed, demanding that his wishes be remembered, ending with a heartfelt plea, "Let my disease die with me." It was a request for mercy for his kingdom, a personal wish to be remembered through time. Unfortunately, that wish was not fulfilled. He was buried in a limestone sarcophagus beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, resting among kings and saints. Jerusalem mourned not just a ruler, but the end of an era filled with bravery, suffering, and unwavering sacrifice. The city faced many changes, but Baldwin's legacy remained, a symbol of resilience amid conflict and faith. Over time, the tombs wore down as the Crusades changed Jerusalem, scattering Baldwin's bones into legend. The truth of his illness faded into myth until the 21st century, when modern methods began to unravel these ancient mysteries. For 800 years, it lay buried. Then, one spring morning, a discovery beneath the city changed everything historians had believed. Bones beneath Jerusalem, the 2024 discovery. In spring 2024, workers near the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem found an unmarked limestone coffin with the name Baldwinus Rex, thought to belong to King Baldwin IV. They discovered well-preserved bone fragments, leading a team of geneticists, forensic pathologists, medievalists, and microbiologists to investigate. Forensic scans showed signs of leprosy, including nerve damage and bone issues, and DNA analysis found Mycobacterium leprae. However, the genetic markers did not match those of known medieval strains, suggesting a more complex illness. Baldwin IV did not only have leprosy, he suffered from a rare autoimmune disease that caused his body to attack itself, leading to unexpected health problems. Historians re-evaluated Baldwin's condition, which was once seen as a punishment from God or due to genetic issues. The new findings showed that his health problems were linked to a co-infection that led to severe nerve damage, making his situation more complex than people understood at the time. The research into Baldwin's genetic makeup revealed his struggles were more profound and more troubling than anyone had thought. The diagnosis: leprosy meets Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease. Scientists recently studied the remains of Baldwin IV and found a medical mystery. He had both leprosy and Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, a genetic disorder that affects nerve function. This rare combination explains his symptoms and how he managed to be a king despite his health issues. The bacteria that cause leprosy took advantage of his genetic weaknesses, spreading quickly because of his inherited nerve disorder. This finding settles the long debate over whether Baldwin's suffering was a punishment or just bad luck. Instead, it shows that his difficulties came from a complex mix of his conditions, leading to his tragic fate. A report stated, King Baldwin IV of Jerusalem suffered from two conditions: Mycobacterium leprae infection and hereditary Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease. This discovery changes centuries of speculation into scientific understanding, showing that Baldwin's pain was not a curse, but a serious biological struggle. At the Israel Museum, DNA findings and medical notes are displayed alongside Baldwin's portrait, underscoring his dual battles. After 800 years of confusion, his story is clearer. Baldwin IV is remembered not as a victim of superstition, but as a remarkable individual who faced significant challenges with courage. Was his most brutal battle on the battlefield or within his own body? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you next time.